There are moments when your mind does not simply think, it roars. A constant stream of worries, unfinished conversations, imagined futures, and silent judgments, all speaking at once, as if silence has been erased from within you. You try to distract yourself. You scroll, you work, you talk, but the noise follows. It lingers beneath everything, waiting for the smallest pause to resurface. This is not just overthinking. It is cognitive overload when the brain exceeds its natural capacity to process, regulate, and prioritize thought. And the more you try to silence it by force, the louder it becomes. So the question is not how to stop thinking, but how to relate differently to the noise itself. What if the loudness in your mind is not the problem, but a signal you have not yet learned to read? From a psychological perspective, what we experience as mental noise is often the brain's attempt to resolve uncertainty. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and planning, becomes overactive when faced with ambiguity or unresolved stress. At the same time, the default mode network associated with self-referential thinking keeps looping through past and future scenarios. In simple terms, your mind is trying to protect you by predicting, analyzing, and preparing. But without boundaries, this protective mechanism becomes intrusive. Science suggests that attention is a limited resource. When too many thoughts compete for it, clarity is replaced by fragmentation. You do not think better, you think louder. And this is where the idea of pausing becomes powerful, not as avoidance, but as regulation. A pause is not the absence of thought, it is the reorganization of attention. When you intentionally pause, even for a few seconds, something subtle happens in the brain. Neural activity begins to shift. The sympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for urgency and stress, gradually gives way to the parasympathetic system, which promotes calm and restoration. This is why slow breathing, stillness, or even brief moments of silence can feel disproportionately relieving. Not because your problems are solved, but because your brain is no longer amplifying them. From a psychological standpoint, pausing also creates what is called cognitive diffusion, a space between you and your thoughts. Instead of being inside every thought, reacting to each one as if it were urgent or true, you begin to observe them. A thought appears, you notice it, and instead of following it, you let it pass. This shift from identification to observation is small, but transformative. There is also a deeper dimension to this. In many religious and contemplative traditions, silence is not seen as emptiness, but as alignment. In Islam, for example, moments of stillness are embedded in daily life through practices like salah, prayer, where one steps away from noise and returns attention to something greater than the self. The act itself is structured, deliberate, and rhythmic, mirroring what modern psychology recognizes as grounding, not as an escape from reality, but as a recalibration of perception. Because when the mind is loud, it often centers everything around itself, its fears, its interpretations, its urgency. Pausing interrupts that center. It reminds you that not every thought deserves authority. But pausing is not easy. In a world that rewards constant engagement, stillness can feel uncomfortable, even unproductive. The mind resists it because it has been conditioned to equate activity with control. Yet, paradoxically, control is often restored not through more effort, but through deliberate stillness. So, the next time your mind feels too loud, do not rush to silence it. Instead, pause. Not to escape your thoughts, but to see them more clearly. Not to force quiet, but to allow space. Because within that space, something subtle begins to emerge, not the absence of noise, but the presence of awareness. And perhaps that is where a different kind of understanding begins. And in that awareness, you may begin to notice something you had overlooked before. Not every thought is a command. Not every feeling is a fact. Not every sense of urgency is real. The mind, when overwhelmed, loses its ability to distinguish between what is important and what is merely present. Everything feels immediate. Everything feels significant. But awareness, especially the kind cultivated through pausing, restores discernment. You begin to see patterns. The same worries returning in different forms. The same fears dressed in new scenarios. The same internal narratives repeating, not because they are true, but because they are familiar. And familiarity, to the brain, often feels like safety even when it is not. This is why mental noise can be so persistent. It is not always trying to harm you. Often, it is trying to keep you within the boundaries of what it already understands. Predictability feels safer than uncertainty, even if that predictability is filled with stress. But when you pause, you interrupt that loop. You introduce something unfamiliar, stillness without problem solving, awareness without reaction. At first, this can feel unsettling. The mind may grow even louder, as if resisting the interruption. Thoughts may come faster, sharper, more insistent. This is not failure, this is exposure. You are, perhaps for the first time, seeing the full momentum of your own cognition without immediately being carried by it. And if you stay not forcing, not engaging, just observing, something begins to shift again. The intensity does not disappear all at once. It softens at the edges. Thoughts still arise, but they begin to lose their grip. They come and they go, without needing to be completed, solved, or answered. This is the paradox of mental quiet. It is not achieved by eliminating thought, but by removing the necessity to follow every thought to its conclusion. From a cognitive standpoint, this is a retraining of attention. You are teaching your mind that it does not need to react to every internal stimulus. Over time, this reduces the baseline level of mental noise, not by suppression, but by non-reinforcement. In other words, what you stop feeding begins to fade. There is also an emotional layer beneath this. Often, what makes the mind loud is not just the volume of thoughts, but the weight they carry: fear, regret, anticipation, self-doubt. When you pause and observe, you are not only changing your relationship to thinking, but also to feeling. You allow emotions to exist without immediately translating them into narratives. A tightness in the chest does not have to become a catastrophic story. A sense of uncertainty does not have to become a prediction of failure. You feel it without building around it. And in doing so, emotions, like thoughts, begin to move. Because both thoughts and feelings are dynamic processes, not fixed states. They persist when held, when analyzed excessively, when resisted. They pass when allowed. This is why even a brief pause, a single conscious breath, a moment of stillness, a quiet acknowledgement of "this is what I am experiencing right now," can begin to recalibrate your internal state. It is small, almost unremarkable from the outside, but internally, it is a shift from compulsion to choice, from being pulled by the mind to gently guiding it. And perhaps this is the deeper invitation behind all of this. Not to become someone who never overthinks, not to eliminate mental noise entirely, but to become someone who is not controlled by it. Someone who can hear the noise without becoming the noise. So when your mind becomes loud again, and it will, remember that the goal is not silence, it is space. Space to notice, space to choose, space to let thoughts exist without giving them immediate authority. Because in that space, you are no longer overwhelmed by everything your mind produces. You are simply aware of it. And awareness, quiet or not, is already a form of calm.